Welcome back to One Hit Wonderland, where we take a look at bands and artists known for only one song. I've done a lot of episodes of this show, more than 100 I think at this point, but not a day goes by where I don't get asked, well, when are you going to do the big one? The big one, you know, the big one. Well, it's time. In the summer of 1996, there was a song, a dance, an event, a movement, a phenomenon, a mass psychosis called the Macarena. No one really knew where it came from, and afterward there was no real explanation for what had happened. All any of us knew was there were these two middle-aged men singing rapid-fire lyrics that most Americans could not decipher, and over the course of a year it had taken over the entire world.
They're doing it everywhere. Nightclubs and weddings, even on the Baywatch beach.
I put off covering it for so long just out of sheer intimidation. Los del Rio's Macarena is unquestionably the biggest one-hit wonder of all time. And not only that, one of the biggest songs of any kind ever. According to Billboard, it is in their top 10 of all-time biggest hits. But measuring its sky-high sales and airplay was still underrated. I know that not everyone who watches this show is old enough to have been there, so to my younger viewers, I need you to understand that the Macarena was fucking everywhere. It was everywhere. Like, if you're too young for the Macarena, then what's the biggest song of your lifetime? Old Town Road? Something else? Whatever it is, trust me that the Macarena was 6 billion times bigger. There were dance crazes before, obviously, but those were for dance floors. This was different. In 1996, any event with 3 or more people was at risk of breaking out into the Macarena. Birthdays, weddings, funerals, public parks, shopping malls, sports arenas, school lunchrooms, daycares, corporate retreats, church socials, dinner with grandma. There was nowhere safe. By September, even those really ugly fishes at the bottom of the ocean knew how to do the goddamn Macarena. Why? I cannot promise I have an answer, or that an answer is even possible, but I will try. I will try. So, come join me, dance with me, and all you fellas, chant along with me. There is a little Spanish town outside Seville, near the Guadalquivir River, called Dos Hermanas. From Dos Hermanas came 2 hermanos, Antonio Romero and Rafael Ruiz, 2 childhood friends who would become better known by their band name Los del Rio, meaning those from the River Boys. Us 90s kids have the image of those 2 men burned into our brains, but most of us know very little about them. Part of the reason I've put this off so long is, well, these guys were both suspiciously foreign and suspiciously old, so they probably had a long history in a genre I know nothing about. As it turns out, yeah, pretty much. Here they are in the 90s, here they are in the 80s, and the 70s. Here they are in the goddamn 60s as teenagers. For the first decade plus of their career, Franco was still in power. That's how far back they go. Now, their music is a regional subgenre of flamenco called Sevillanas. It's upbeat and danceable like their big hit, but much heavier on the Spanish guitar. Flamenco is a traditional music that goes back centuries, so what I'm saying is they started very far away from the Macarena. How successful were they? It's hard to say. I'm obviously no expert on Andalusian folk music, and info is scarce even with the liberal use of Google Translate. They were successful enough to do this for many decades, of course. According to their website, they were a big lounge act in the 70s and then hit makers in the 80s. But, you know, citation needed. One big song they had that people seem to find noteworthy is from 1991, a tribute to their hometown called Sevilla tiene un color especial. Sevilla tiene un color especial. Yeah, one of the towns I lived in also had a special color, because of the chemical plant. Anyway, that one became a local anthem, but it seems like they were never bigger than regional successes. By their own admission, their music was conservative, traditional, and their audience was mostly old-fashioned and just plain old. And then, the story really begins. The year is 1992. Los del Rio are touring South America. In Venezuela, they see a dancer doing the flamenco, this is her, and she must have been very enchanting because Antonio wrote a song for her on the spot. It was called Magdalena, but there was already a song with that name, so they changed it to Macarena after Antonio's daughter. The chorus should already be very familiar to you. I've seen different translations of it over the years, but it mostly boils down to Shake, Shake It, Baby. And they released the song, and it became a big hit. I don't know if I should end the before the hit segment right here. When we got to the song, we should move on, right? No, not really, because before the hit, Macarena was already a big hit. It became a pretty big summer jam in Spain and a couple other countries. In fact, I had to hire a Spanish translator to do research on these guys, and he actually informed me that in his country, this is the real beloved version, and the one we Americans know is watered down, sellout garbage shit. And also, this is still 1993. Los del Rio will release 3 whole other albums before their lives change forever. But while they were going on with their careers, their contract is bought out by a new label, and their new bosses decide Macarena might work as a club track, so they bring in these guys. This is the Spanish dance act Fangoria, and they are the true unsung heroes of the Macarena story. Their names will never be on the hit version of the song, but they do make a couple remixes, including this very early 90s version. Everybody dance now! But for our purposes, the important mix is the other one. The River Fay mix. And there it is. The Macarena that would conquer the world. Almost.
It's the biggest dance craze since the twist. People who have never danced in their lives are doing the Macarena. Some people love it.
A lot of people over the years have tried to make sense of the Macarena, to little avail. It sounds like nothing else from that year, not the other hits, not the Latin pop, not the club tracks. It doesn't seem to be part of any trend except itself. How could it have done what it did? Well, it would not have gotten as big as it did without the support of the stiff, lame, white people demographic. So there is one underrated factor that I think people neglect, and that's the early 90s country music explosion. Don't tell my heart. And subsequently, the line dance explosion. Don't think you'd understand. The country line dance craze was much, much more popular than you remember. And this overlapped with the birth of the king of line dances, the electric slide, which the country dance halls quickly co-opted for their own. The point being that in the early 90s, a lot of people who would not generally dance were dancing. They were dancing simple dances that were easy to learn and were mostly fun because everyone was doing it all at once. Now, the origin of this dance is obscure. Patient Zero has never been identified. One thing that is for certain is that by early 1995, the song is belatedly spreading through Latin America, and several cover versions already exist. There's also a Canadian version by a group calling themselves Los del Mar, har har, and that one's already a big hit north of the border.
Hola, my name is Will Veloz, and you probably recognize me from my hit song, Macarena.
Your hit, thief. But where does the dance come from? One record executive claims that he came up with the idea for a dance to help spread it even further and that he hired the choreographer himself. Another executive claims that he'd already seen people doing the dance as early as '93. The earliest signs I can find of it showing up in America are brief references in Miami. In June, the Herald runs a picture of children doing what they call a traditional dance. Outside of Miami, the first mention is in Billboard. Her sisters? The fuck? And it was just the label doing their pre-release hype. And the article's like, yeah, we think mainstream America will really like the Macarena. Buddy, you have no idea. In September, a little border paper in Texas runs a whole article about this dance, which has been absolutely wrecking Tejano clubs up and down the Rio Grande Valley. So much so that even some boot-scooting cowboys and cowgirls were starting to get in on it. One of the interviewees says it's been 6 months of this goddamn dance and he's actually getting kinda sick of it. Well, that's bad luck for him, Cause at this point, there's a new remix of the song that's spreading past the clubs and into the pop charts.
The Bayside Boys name started with my partner and I, Mike Triai, because we were remixers.
In Miami, a DJ wants to put the song in rotation. His bosses won't let him play a song that's all in Spanish, and Justin Bieber is not yet available to contribute a guest verse, so he hands it off to a production team called the Bayside Boys to remix it. Their remix is basically the same as the Fangoria version, and Fangoria will sue to no avail. But what this remix does add is a couple samples and a few English verses from a woman playing the role of Macarena herself.
When I dance, they call me Macarena, and the boys they say que soy buena.
And that's the final piece of the puzzle.
Move with me, chant with me.
Airplay takes off in Miami and Seattle. Even non-Latinos start blowing up for it. Los del Rio are baffled. Their label gets them to shoot a music video for it. They're supposed to be doing the dance, but unfortunately they cannot dance for shit. So eventually they shoot a second one where they just sing. For the rest of 1995, the Macarena will spread through the country and own every dance floor in America. People will be calling it Macarena Madness. And then, after tearing up dance floors for the rest of the year, people forget this, the song fades away. After hovering just outside the top 40 for months, the Macarena finally burns itself out and it falls off the charts. From what I can tell, it had not crossed over from the clubs except in a few major cities. It is just another dance fad, no bigger than the Watusi or the Locomotion. It is entirely possible that I, Todd, the little kid, had not even heard the song yet. And then, early in 1996, WKTU in New York adds it to their playlist. The song gets a second wind. The second wave of the pandemic begins, and it is much, much bigger than the first.
What was the number one thing everybody did this past summer?
Macarena.
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 Yes, indeed. It's the Macarena!
By that summer, Macarena Mania has overtaken the world. Everyone's doing it. At the Olympics, at baseball stadiums, at the Democratic National Convention, and that's just America. It's taken over other countries too. They're doing it at the Tour de France, at the European Soccer Championships. There are workout tapes, tie-ins, instructional videos.
Look what we got! It's Macarena Teddy. Let's dance.
Just looking through what's been preserved on YouTube alone, I can find hours upon hours of forgotten Macarena detritus. And that's not even counting the hundreds of vintage home movies of families dancing the damn thing. I wasn't immune. I remember doing the Macarena at the roller rink in PE. Does that mean I liked it? I don't know. In 1996, I was not young enough to really enjoy the song, and I was not old enough or cynical enough to hate it. It was just this thing that was happening. I know I've already used a bunch of pandemic metaphors, but even at the time, that's how people described it. People didn't know the words going viral yet, but that's how it felt, like a virus.
A mí me da la impresión de que sí debe ser una especie de virus cuando medio mundo o el mundo entero anda enloquecido.
It was virulently contagious. No one actually did the Macarena. The Macarena did you. Okay, on a less hysterical note, part of the reason everyone did it was that everyone could do it. It was a very easy to memorize dance. I cannot believe there were so many instructional videos. It's not that hard. Hand, head, hips, but it's the pelvic thrusts that really drive you insane. I'll give it this, it went really well with the song. It was fun, you do the wiggle right when they go, ay, and then you jump right when they go, ay. Was it a good dance? Well, put a little hips into it, get a little rhythm going, you could look pretty damn good doing the Macarena. But most people did not look good doing the Macarena. You ask me who did the Macarena, the correct answer is everyone. But in my memory, it was old people. It was your moms and dads who couldn't dance who did this dance. And somehow this didn't kill the trend, it only made it stronger. The thing people forget is that beyond the dance craze, the song is actually pretty good. Like, there's a reason people dance to it. You hear that opening riff, and your hands just involuntarily move forward.
Find me, my name is Macarena.
And let's give it up for the girl on the song. Her name is Patty Alfaro, and what happened to her is lost to history, but she turns in a truly wonderfully evil performance that she absolutely sells.
Now don't you worry about my boyfriend, the boy whose name is Vitorino.
In the original, Macarena just gets pissed off because her boyfriend Vitorino joined the army, and she goes out to have fun without him.
I want him, couldn't stand him.
In this version, she just plain doesn't like him, and she's flirting with every guy on the dance floor, and much more than that.
Come on, what was I supposed to do? He was out of town, and his two friends were so fine.
Jesus Christ, Vitorino, sucks to be you. Not one, but two of your boys running a train on your girlfriend? Christ, we were little kids listening to this. Were people offended? Yes, many people were. I remember some angry letters, but they couldn't stop it. As 96 became 97, it was still going. Los del Rio performed it at the Super Bowl. Country stations began playing a bluegrass version.
She's a girl that they call Macarena. She's the sweetest little thing that I've ever seen her.
I swear to God it happened. Incidentally, the Bayside Boys, who wrote a good third of the hit version, would recruit a new singer, go on tour with the song, and try to launch their own pop career, so they are actually one-hit wonders also. But eventually, it ran its course. And it just became this bizarre thing that we put into our past. When we talk about the Macarena, we don't talk about it with other hits. When it comes up, it's in the same conversation as Pogs, Beanie Babies, Virtual Pets, Frosted Tips, and Jinko Jeans. You can still throw it on at weddings and get a decent amount of people doing it, but to the extent it exists past the 90s, it's only as dated kitsch. And yet, God, what a legacy on this song. This is the song that proved that more than just Latinos would listen to Spanish music. So right after this, there was the Latin pop explosion, led by another song about a crazy, wild, fun chick. And that would eventually lead us into the reggaeton explosion. Not for nothing is Bad Bunny doing the Macarena right now. And of course, we also got the billion other stupid dances that popped up in its wake. And eventually those became TikTok dances, which really do recreate the anytime, anywhere appeal of the Macarena. We talk about it as just a stupid fad, but it changed the world. But what do you do when you're Los del Rio? They were as puzzled by their success as anybody. Arguably, they didn't even have much to do with it. Where do you possibly go from here? One-hit wonders are called wonders because they're actually kind of rare. Hits generally breed more hits, and even most of the acts I cover on this show had the momentum to scrape weak follow-ups into the top 40, or at least the bottom of the Hot 100. But then, there is the one-hit wonder in its truest and purest form, to go all the way to number 1, and then never even sniff the ass end of the charts ever again. Bowl a perfect game, and then roll nothing but gutter balls afterward. This feat has only been achieved a dozen or so times, reserved for only the weirdest, flukiest, most random number 1 hits that have ever existed, from the kinds of artists you cannot imagine anyone wanting to hear more from. Los del Rio is not one of those artists. I mean, technically the Macarena already counted as 2 hits, since both the original and the remix charted. But so did their follow-up to the Macarena, peaking at number 57 in the winter of 96. Ladies and gentlemen, Macarena Christmas. There are allegedly as many as 4,700 different recorded versions of the Macarena. I can point you to so many. But nothing will prove how huge this song was like this version of it. A truly inept mashup of the song with about a half dozen Christmas carols. So big was the Macarena that people actually bought the Christmas version of it in large quantities. This is, without reservation, absolutely horrendous. And yet, I kind of wish I lived in a world where this caught on. Imagine choirs singing this at midnight mass, carolers at your door doing the Macarena. Dale a tu cuerpo alegría Macarena, fa la 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 la. God, I could make a better Christmas master than these guys. That was not even a Christmas song, goddammit! They also sang at a Christmas event at the Vatican that year, but it seems they opted to perform something else. So, tragically, there is no footage of Pope John Paul II shaking his butt. Yeah, I'm gonna guess that there's nowhere that calls this song a beloved classic. But, fun fact, in Los del Rio's home country, it is their only song to hit #1. And in fact, I found footage of them performing it as late as 2013. Good God. Well, in any case, after this abomination, Los del Rio retreats from our shores for good. I don't know. Information about them before Macarena is scarce. Information about them after is almost non-existent, unless I actually learn Spanish myself and fly to Seville to ask people. All I have is their official discography, which says that they've been recording non-stop for the last 25 years, and a large volume of performance clips on YouTube that strongly suggest that they're still very welcome on Spanish TV. As for whether they tried to recreate the success of Macarena, I did find this one video from 1997 called Take It Easy. So judging by that, it seems they did try to have a second dance hit, but I found no other pop video from them, so I assume they retreated back to the traditional music they started with, and that's what they've been doing since. That said, I did find several attempts at Macarena revival videos where they try to update it for the modern day. I doubt they succeeded. But my translator tells me that in Spain, Macarena is still a point of national pride. And even with these guys in their 70s, it looks like everyone is still happy to have these guys around. Can you imagine being these guys and being unsatisfied with what life has brought you? I'm pretty sure Los del Rio are pretty happy with being the guys who conquered the fucking world in 1996. They were hard-working musicians who played for decades, built up a solid living, and for one moment had the biggest song in the universe. I cannot imagine they are anything but proud of every second of their careers, their biggest hit naturally included. And so, in tribute to their achievement, I am going to play a context-free string of insane mid-90s Macarena clips that I couldn't fit into the video. Enjoy.
Hey, how about a nice Macarena?
Right, left, shake.
Hip, hip, back, back, swivel down.
Mania, there's nothing zania. Fans go bonkers, you can hear them in Yonkers. Eat your kielbasa, drink your brewski, drink the Wolsavsky, we've got the last Lasky.
Bubulugo super rico chocolate, con jalea malvavisco suavecito. Macaroni is the best when it's cooked al dente. Hey, macaroni.
Sorry, motherfuckers, dance the Macarena. Could it be that everybody's gonna kinda insane, huh? Everybody, yeah, but hates the Macarena. Fuck the Macarena, huh?
Side, side, butt, swish, swish.
צריך להתחשב בחולשתה של הגברת, יש לה אופי טוב וגם יחדה בכנרת. את המילקי היא גנבה ואילו לא אני צונזנת, אני מתחננת.
Bala tu cuerpo, alegría, Macarena, que tu cuerpo es para dar la alegría y cosas buenas. Bala tu cuerpo, alegría, Macarena, Macarena. Ay!
When I dance, they call me Macarena. If the boys they sing, they soy buena. They all